Okay, this one should be a really short video on dividing real numbers. I know that some of you are going to look at this in just a minute and say, I'm not going to do that because we're going to be multiplying by reciprocals or inverses. But if you practice now, later on in algebra, when we start multiplying by reciprocals and we have no other way of doing it, you'll know what to do. Okay, there is a PDF or notes that you can print out if you'd like to go to do this. Okay, first of all, the general rule for dividing is to multiply the first number, and we're usually only talking about two at a time, by the multiplicative inverse, also called the reciprocal, of the second number. Then you follow the signs for multiplying, the rules about the signs positive, positive, or positive, negative. First example will be 10 divided by 2, and we're going to rewrite that as 10 times, and then the reciprocal of 2 is really 1 over 2. And we always take this number here, which is just a whole number, divide by the denominator and loop back up and times by the numerator. So 10 divided by 2 would be 5. 5 times 1 is 5. Same thing here. We're going to rewrite this as 15 times, and then the reciprocal here would be to flip this over, and that would become 5 over 3. And the shortcut to multiplying this fraction with the whole number is to take the whole number divided by the denominator, you get 5. 5 times 5 then would be 25. Right here we have two two fractions, and they're both negative, so negative times negative or negative divided by negative is going to be a positive, so we still have negative 7/8 times negative, and flip this over and we get 12 over 5. And we could just go multiply straight across, but I'm going to go ahead and simplify the 8 and the 12 first. The greatest common factor they have in common is a 4, so 8 divided by 4 would give us 2, and 12 divided by 4 would give us 3. And then negative times a negative is going to give us positive. 3 times 7 is 21, and 2 times 5 is 10. And that is the fully simplified fraction. The only thing you can do now is take it a step further and turn it into a mixed number, 2 and 1/10. But for now, we're going to go ahead and leave it just like this. This is the property called inverse property multiplication. Even though we're doing division, we multiply by the reciprocal of the number, the second number. So we call that the inverse property of multiplication. And what they're really saying is any number, let's say we take the number 5, and we times it by its reciprocal. Of course, this is called the inverse, multiplicative inverse. So any number times its reciprocal will always result in a positive 1. So even if you take two negatives, let's say we take the negative 3/4, and I times it by its reciprocal, which is also negative, but it's 4/3, what we end up getting is a negative times a negative, which is positive, and then 12, 3 times 4 is 12, 4 times 3 is 12, 12 over 12 is just 1. So any number times its reciprocal or multiplicative inverse will always produce a 1. Here's the sign rules for a quotient. You'll notice that they're exactly the same as multiplication. If they have the same signs, it's a positive answer. If they have different signs, it's negative. The quotient of 0 and any other non-zero, this is important, non-zero real number is 0. That just looks like this. 0 divided by any number, it doesn't matter what it is going to be 0. And you cannot take 0 and divide it by 0. Does not equal 0. This is actually undefined. You cannot divide by 0. We'll show you later on why you can't do that. Find the multiplicative inverse of each number. Well, the multiplicative inverse of negative 27 is negative 1 over 27. Notice that the signs didn't change. The instructions don't say to flip it over and change the sign. It just says flip it over. That way, negative times negative will still give you the positive 1 when you multiply them back together. This would just be negative 1 over 8, negative 7 over 4, and negative 3 over 1, which you could just call negative 3. Now, one example they didn't put on here for us was a mixed number. Let's say I have the mixed number 2 and 3/5. The reciprocal of this is not 2 and 5/3. That is not correct. This needs to be put in fraction form first. So 2 times 5 gives us 10, we add the 3, and that gives us 13 fifths. So 2 and 3/5 as an improper fraction is 13/5, and the reciprocal of that, which is 5/13, this is actually the reciprocal of 2 and 3/5. You have to convert it to a fraction before you can take the reciprocal of the number. Quick examples here, -64 times -1/4. And you can put this over 1 if you want. Negative times negative is going to be a positive. 64/4, I believe that is 16. 16/1 or just 16. Over here we have -3/8, and we're going to change this to a times, and then flip this over to 10/3. And you can cross or pre-simplify. The 3's will become 1's. They'll simplify out to 1. The 8 and the 10 have a common factor of 2. So this becomes a 4 and this becomes a 5. 1 times 5 is 5. 4 times 1 is 4. And the result is 5/4. It's 1 1/4, but it's okay to leave it for now as an improper fraction. Over here we have 18 times, and then flip this over, we get -9/2. And remember, this is over 1, so I'm going to pre-simplify my 18 and 2. This becomes a 1, this becomes a 9. They have a 2 in common, so divide them both by 2. Well, 1 times 1 means this is going to be over 1, and 9 times -9 is -81, or just -81. I don't have to put it over 1. Same thing with the last one here, -2/5. We're going to change this to times, but the reciprocal of 18 is 1/18. 18, let's make it 18. And I'm going to pre-simplify here. The 2 and 18 have a 2 in common, so divide by 2 I get 1, divide by 2 I get 9, so it's 1 times 1, or -1 times 1 on the top, which is -1, and 5 times 9 on the bottom, which is 45. So that one becomes -1/45. There's no dividing into decimals necessary on any of these problems. Multiply by the reciprocal, learn how to do it now, and it will save you a lot of headaches later on in algebra when you come across a problem where you have a fraction inside of a fraction and you don't know how to deal with it because you haven't been practicing this. Simplify the expression. What we're going to do, this is really a big fraction. We're going to rewrite this fraction as a division. Anytime you have more than one term in the numerator, you must think of it in terms of grouping symbols. So I'm going to rewrite this as this whole thing divided by 6. Well, we don't divide by the numbers, we multiply by reciprocals, so I'm going to rewrite that again as 36x minus 24 times 1/6. So the reciprocal of 6 is 1/6. And then all we're going to do is use the distributive property to multiply both of these numbers. So the first one's going to be 1/6 times 36x minus 1/6 times 24. So we took this 1/6, we distributed it to both. And then this can be over 1. So 36/6 leaves us with 6x, or 1/6 of 36, minus 24/6. 24 divided by 6 will leave us with 4. So this right here ends up simplifying to, we are just simplifying, to 6x minus 4. Okay, we're going to try a couple others here. This is going to be -1/4 times 2x minus 8. And then we're going to distribute our -1/4. So -1/4 times 2 is going to give us -2/4 x. -1/4 times times -8 is going to give us positive 8/4. And we can simplify. 2/4 becomes 1/2. Don't forget our x. And 8/4 becomes 2. And that would be our simplified expression. Same thing on the next one. I'm going to rewrite this as 1/3, because the reciprocal of 3 is 1/3, times -6y plus 18, and distribute. Negative 1/3 times negative 6 is negative 6 over 3y. 1/3 times 18 is 18 over 3. And then simplify negative 6 over 3, which is negative 2y, and 18 over 3 is simply 6. So negative 2y plus 6. The last one here has a negative at the bottom. Don't forget to carry the negative all the way through. So the reciprocal of negative 5 is negative 1/5. Remember, we don't change the sign. So negative 1/5 times negative 10z minus 20. So negative 1/5 times negative 10z is positive 10 over 5z. And then negative 1/5 times negative 20 is going to be positive 20 over 5. Simplify, 10 over 5 becomes 2z, and 20 over 5 becomes 4. And this becomes our simplified answer.